That's a lot of fun. Welcome back. This is an awful fun gun to shoot, and the fun transcends just the fact that it's a gun, but what it was used for. This model 1890 Winchester was affectionately known as a gallery gun. Now, you know, these days we have shooting galleries. You know, they're some sort of, you know, infrared beam or, you know, computerized game. And you might find still some amusement parks where they have streams of water that you might shoot, or jets of air, things like that. But back when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, you could go to any penny arcade, any carnival, and you could expect to find a shooting gallery or two on the premises. And well, I think I remember paying a dime to get 10 shots, a penny apiece. And later on, I think it was just before I went in the service, I think at Revere Beach, they were still charging around 25 cents for 10 shots. Now, these shooting galleries were basically, you were shooting at targets probably about 25 feet away or no more than that. And it was an animated set of targets. So you had cast iron ducks going by on a surface, or you had pipes, cast iron, you know, smoking pipes sticking up that you could knock over. There would be spinning things that you could shoot at, and you know, bullseyes that would pop out and things. Everything was made of cast iron, and what you did was you shot at it with. I've got some right here. This is 22 Shorts gallery loads, and this is actually a box of gallery loads that my dad had purchased back in the mid-60s. Can you imagine? This says $3.95, and it's a box of 250. I think there's about 25 or so still left that I never shot. But we used to shoot these in the Model 572 Remington that we had back then. And you know, we were actually shooting these things in our basement, but it was frangible shot. Nobody would even think about doing that stuff anymore. You know, we were shooting it against stone wall basement down in our basement years ago in the 50s and 60s. But that was the sort of fun that we had back then. And you know, you could just walk up to the counter, and you know, you pass the carny, the gallery owner, 10 cents or a quarter or whatever it was, and he'd give you one of these loaded guns. And sometimes it would be chained to the bench so that, you know, you couldn't turn it on anybody. But you know, so that was what you did, and you just fired away until you used up your 10 cents. And at some of them, they might, if you scored a particular, you know, target or something that was difficult to hit, might have even been welded down so you couldn't knock it over. But supposedly you could win something. You know, you could win a stuffed bear or something. I don't remember anybody ever actually winning anything. So, but that was a fantastic time. You know, it was a nostalgic time for me, and you certainly would not be able to find any sort of shooting galleries, I'm sure, any place in this country right now because, you know, liability concerns and all that. But let me talk about the gun. The 1890 Winchester, and this one here, as a matter of fact, is just marked Model 90. This was made in 3 variations. It was made in, actually 4. It was made in the specific chamberings for short, long, and the Winchester rimfire. The Winchester rimfire cartridge was a larger cartridge, different chambering, and then later on it was made in the 22 long rifle. But it was a cartridge-specific gun. It did not shoot them interchangeably. So this one here happens to be a 22 short. Very, very quiet. You know, I was shooting some those low power loads, and you don't even need hearing protection. I mean, it's less noise than striking a hammer on a nail. Very, very quiet. You know, the 22 shorts are around 700 and so feet per second, but this gun here is in absolutely beautiful condition. You can see it's one of the better ones. These guns took a beating, especially the ones that were used in the galleries. This one here has got the crescent butt plate, and it's in top condition, really nice. It's got the octagonal barrel here, and this tubular magazine holds roughly 14 or 15 22 shorts, and it's got a checkered hammer spur. The action is really nice and smooth. In order to cock it, you have to lower the hammer all the way down and pull it back, or you can push the firing pin in, and that'll start it back. That locks it. So as you can see, that bolt drops down into the top with those two ears and secures the bolt during firing. This one here is in really nice shape. This is a later production. This one here, I researched the serial number. This one was made in 1936. The Winchester Company had been making lever-action rifles for virtually every caliber, and during the 1800s. And it turned out that the model 1873, which is a very, very fine, highly regarded rifle that Winchester made for centerfire cartridges, turned out to be very unpopular in the 22 chambering. So Winchester asked John Browning, who was in their employ at the time. John Browning was not only in Winchester's employ, but he was kind of a freelance designer. He worked on his own products as well. But he was asked if he could come up with a pump action gun, because at the time Marlin and Remington were in the pump action business, and those were much more popular. So in the late 18, they asked him to do that, commissioned him to do that. And actually, I think it only took him, if I remember right, it only took him about 2 weeks for he and his brother Matthew to come up with this design. In fact, he got a handsome bonus from Winchester for coming up with it so quickly. The rifle was designed and patented in, it says right on the barrel here too, I think it was 1888, June of 1888. Patent June 26th, 88. And there were subsequently patents in December 6th of 1892, and another one to follow in May 30th, 1911. John Browning had over 100, I think 120 something patents credited to him, and over 100 different firearm designs, and this was one of his most noteworthy rifle designs that turned out to be very, very popular. And this rifle was produced from 1890 till 1932, and in 1932 it was replaced by the model 1906. Which was a lesser quality gun than this, but that supplanted this particular gun. However, you remember I said that this gun was made in 1936. There was a period of time between the end of its cataloged production until 1941, when it was still, Winchester was cleaning up its production. Naturally, they had many parts still in stock, warehoused. So they continued to make these, which would be a undocumented, largely an uncatalogued period of time. This one here is actually marked Model 90 rather than being marked Model 1890. Winchester had turned away from, of course, in the 20th century, they started dropping the first two digits, the 18, like the Model 1894. Winchester turned out to be just the Model 94 and things like that, because naturally they wanted to come into the 20th century and they wanted to leave the 1800s behind. So that became the norm. So this particular rifle, although you won't find, I searched online and you cannot find any reference to a Model 90 Winchester that I could dig up. But it's marked clearly Model 90 22 short. But every reference is to the Model 1890, which is what it's classically called. So it's a terrific piece of history. And every recollection that I have of going to Revere Beach, just north of Boston, and in my childhood, and occasionally going to Nantasket Beach, and many other places. Every place that you'd ever go, I can remember carnivals and arcades, any place, and you could always hear in the distance someplace, the attractive sound of these 22 shorts going off, and they were very purposely, out on the sidewalk where that sound could travel, and you could you could follow that sound, that siren call to take a hand at it. And it was no small thing because a dime in those days or a quarter was big bucks. Just as I showed you here, for $3.95 you got these cartridges here, 250 of them. Now these were specialty items even back then that were normally only available to people who were willing to buy them in great bulk. But occasionally shop owners would keep a few in stock for those who wanted to, believe it or not, shoot in their basement or shoot in the backyard at things that could otherwise bounce back. So they were frangible bullets. They were just basically compressed lead powder that would break up and spatter on impact with iron targets. And of course, in those days, nobody was wearing hearing protection. You didn't really need hearing protection with these guns. The report is so mild, and nobody wore they didn't wear eye protection either. So that was the sort of time that it was. But if you ever have a chance to pick one of these up, don't look at the price tag. You're probably going to be very surprised. This gun was sold to the general public for, just a few dollars when it first came out, and probably into the latter years, I doubt that this gun drew more than $40 when it was brand new in 1936. But right now, a gun of this quality and of this condition could possibly bring $2,000 or $3,000. I've seen some of these guns online just the last couple of days. They go well up into the thousands, and they'll get it. There are collectors out there who will buy them. Some of the original models, I believe that some of the very first ones did not have a takedown screw that you could take it apart, and there were also there was a long period of time where, and I don't know I'm not a historian about these, but there was a long period of time when they were made with color case hardened receivers, they're very, very highly prized if they're in good condition. And that's the big problem, is that most of these are in tough shape, really tough shape. At the carnivals, at the end of the day, they just stacked them in a trunk and drove them home, and that was it. So there are still a few references to those old carnival galleries, you can look online. I think Shooting USA might be a website. I'll put a link down at the bottom if I can remember. And the other link I want to put down at the bottom is to my buddy Mike, who let me borrow this so that I could demonstrate it and do this video. He's been very, very kind about giving me an opportunity to talk about the Model 52. And just a little while ago, I did one on the Model 61. So I'm kind of into a Winchester thing right now. I was talking about the Model 94 some time ago, and I've spoken about the Winchester Model 70. So I will talk about other firearms. I've spoken about, Remington and things like that. But the Winchester name is kind of a piece of Americana that, goes along with John Wayne and the movies and Hollywood and all that stuff. So there's fond remembrances of the Winchester name for me. And it's the gun that won the West. So carries a lot of nostalgia and a lot of history to it. So anyway, check out that link down below. And if you're interested in getting some older guns and military memorabilia, anything that you might think of that's old. He's not a dealer in new stuff whatsoever, but anything you might think of that's old. Be sure to visit him and give him a call. He might have exactly what you want, and I'm sure he'll take some pictures and help you out. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Pretty soon I'm going to be hopefully celebrating 100,000 subscribers, so be among the last ones. So I'm not going to be guaranteeing any special prize for the 100,000th subscriber, but I won't even know who he is probably, or she. So that's it. Well, thanks for watching, and God bless.